Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where we cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. In this video, we're going to rank the 5 strongest vampires from movies. I decided to do vampires from movies in its own video because I feel like it's a little unfair putting movie vampires up against TV vampires. A movie has a limited amount of time to establish the strength of a character, where a television show usually keeps scaling in power Dragon Ball Z style, so by the end of the show, they're like gods compared to their strength at the beginning, because they have to keep defeating greater and greater threats. So if you'd like to see a video on the 5 strongest vampires in TV, please let me know. Or if there's any other movies or shows you'd like me to cover, you can leave those down in the comments as well. I also just wanted to mention I've made channel memberships available for $2.99 if you're interested. I thought about making a Patreon, but I figured it would be a lot easier for you guys to have the option to support me right here on YouTube rather than having to go somewhere else. You get a custom badge by your name when you comment on my videos, emojis, and I'll be doing some members polls. I will continue to do non-members polls as well, so if you want to become a member, I would really appreciate it. But there's zero pressure to do so, and nothing will change with the videos. Right now, I write and edit all my content, so I can't offer bonus videos at the moment because a video a week is kind of my max. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at who are the 5 strongest vampires. I've done my best to weigh their strengths, supernatural abilities, and weaknesses. I hope you enjoy.
All our strengths, none of our weaknesses.
Starting off with number 5, we have the Dhampir Blade, also known as Eric Brooks. What makes him such a strong vampire is not only his supernatural abilities, but his status as a Dhampir or half vampire means he has none of their weaknesses, except for the thirst. Blade is extremely strong, roughly equivalent to 10 strong men, but other sources say stronger as he has been seen lifting a few tons. His strength is said to have grown greater than normal vampires through his experience, and when he drinks fresh blood, he's even stronger. He is also very fast and agile, able to leap great distances and move extremely fast, but not so fast that he's like a blur like some vampires from other series. He also cannot fly. Blade's muscles produce less toxins than a normal human. This means he can fight or do anything physical at full capacity for several hours before he gets tired, which is a big advantage. Blade has enhanced senses like hearing, sight, and scent. He also has an extra sense for detecting other supernaturals. In Blade Trinity, he was able to detect Drake when he was nearby. Blade is very strong, but also very resilient. He is thrown into concrete, stabbed with stakes, and beat up by strong supernaturals, but always seems to heal in just a matter of minutes. And if he drinks blood, he can heal almost instantly. 2 of the movies end with Blade drinking blood and going beast mode, even defeating the blood god itself, La Magra. In the comic, Blade can even regenerate limbs if they are severed, unless he is decapitated. Then it's game over. Aside from his supernatural abilities, he is a master martial artist, an extremely good marksman, and just generally very intelligent. During the movies, he was the first to pick up on the Vampire Nation's plans, Dracula's resurrection, and when Scud, aka Daryl Dixon, betrayed him. Outsmarting Blade would be like outsmarting Constantine. Good luck. So let's see how Blade's abilities compare to these other vampires. For the number 4 spot, we have Vlad from Dracula Untold. This Dracula has a wide array of powerful supernatural abilities, which is probably his greatest strength. He can control the weather to some extent, control creatures of the night, and use bats in various ways. He can actually become a swarm of bats, which can allow him to move extremely fast, probably faster than Blade. Vlad can also control the bats to kill people and even attack an entire army. Still love this scene where he makes them into a fist and decimates the ground. This Dracula has some of the best senses of any vampire. His hearing was so good he could hear a spider wrapping its prey from a distance, and to him it was loud. He could also see into complete darkness effortlessly with some kind of special thermal-like vision, and he seems to be able to see in other spectrums or something which allowed him to see through the atmosphere to see the stars, but that's just a guess. He can also mesmerize people. This is shown in a deleted scene. This is like compulsion in most other vampire films. By looking into someone's eyes, you can compel them to do whatever you want. What about Vlad's physical strength and speed? Well, we have a pretty good answer for this because the Master Vampire tells us. He says Vlad will have the strength of 100 men, and the speed of a falling star. When he was first turned, he crushed a stone to pieces in his hand by accident. He also defeated an army of 1,000 men, alone, with no difficulty. Vlad can move pretty fast, but when he uses his ability to fly, he can move extremely fast. He was able to fly what seemed like a few kilometers before his wife fell to the bottom of this tower. So his speed would be bordering on moving so fast he is a blur. To match his superhuman strength and speed, Vlad also has great healing abilities. He is able to heal from almost any wound instantly with no discomfort. Vlad is weak to crosses, which give off a blinding light and cause a vampire to recoil. It's unclear if you could actually kill a vampire with one though, but I'm guessing it would burn their skin if it touched them. He is also weak to silver. It burns his skin, and when in the presence of silver, it gives off a kind of light or shine and it weakens him. While in the presence of silver, his physical strength is the same as a human, but he can still use his magical abilities, which he does right here. Vlad can be killed by a stake to the heart, but it has to be wooden, so a silver stake presumably wouldn't work. It doesn't matter that you can only use a wooden stake though, because even though he has armor on, due to the supernatural nature of the curse, the armor disintegrates away from the tip of the wooden stake. Vlad, like most vampires, is weak to sunlight. It can kill him if exposed long enough, but he can be brought back to life with just a little bit of blood, so it's possible that unless he destroys the entire body, he could always come back. Although Vlad from Dracula Untold has some of the traditional vampire weaknesses, I think his strengths outweigh the drawbacks, which is why I put him above Blade. His speed, ability to fly, and the multiple magical abilities I think gives him the edge. It's also very possible the Master Vampire is even stronger than Vlad, but we never get to see a display of his power, so that would be too much speculating. Now, let's see who's stronger than Dracula.
That even after the darkest night, the sun will rise again.
Number 3 is the one and only Selene from Underworld. Selene is a triple threat, a lot of strengths, no weaknesses, and very well trained. She was turned when she was 19 and is now over 600 years old, meaning she has around 6 centuries of combat training with everything from swords to guns. Selene has super strength, probably similar to Blade, but not as physically strong as Dracula, although her many other abilities and lack of weaknesses is what gives her the edge. There's not too many scenes of Selene lifting heavy things. The best we get is in Awakening when she basically body checks a van and sends it flipping through the air. She is also able to fight off multiple Lycans, the Uber-Lycan Quint Lane, and dozens of humans with no problem. Selene may not be the strongest vampire on this list, but she might be the fastest. After undergoing a special ritual in the Nordic Coven, Selene's speed was enhanced to truly supernatural levels. The first time she uses her super speed, she kills about a half a dozen men in the blink of an eye. She moves so fast it resembles teleportation. Selene is stronger than an average vampire for many reasons. The first is that she was sired by Victor, the second oldest vampire in existence. It was proven in the first movie that elder blood has special properties, and that's why Lucian needed it for his experiment. Selene then drank the blood of the original immortal Alexander Corvinus, which not only greatly enhanced all of her abilities, but she was now immune to lichen bites, sunlight, and partial immunity to nightshade. Vampires from Underworld are not weak to crosses, holy water, or garlic, and silver is reserved for werewolves in this franchise. The only way Selene can be killed is overwhelming physical trauma, and considering her healing abilities, that's easier said than done. She has been seen taking a shotgun blast to the stomach without blinking, fighting the Uber-Lycan Quint Lane multiple times, and has barely had so much as a scratch. In the first film, she jumps off an 80 to 100 foot building and lands like it was nothing. Along with her advanced physical abilities, Selene also has greatly enhanced senses, able to smell, hear, and see great distances and in perfect darkness. She could also sense that David was following her. So similar to Blade, it seems that she can detect supernaturals around her to some degree. Selene does not have too many magic-like abilities other than her insanely fast speed, and she can also synchronize her senses with her daughter and see and hear through her senses. Selene can also drink blood to gather blood memories, although I don't know how useful this would be in a fight. I put Selene in this spot because of her raw strength, teleportation-like speed, and her lack of any kind of weakness. I thought about putting Marcus in this spot, But in the end, he was single-handedly defeated by Selene, so I don't think he was any stronger. His only advantage over Selene would be his wings, but I don't think they're good enough to put him above Selene, because someone like Dracula or Blade could just cut them off. Selene's strength is slightly due to the power scaling effect like I talked about in the beginning. There has been 5 Underworld movies and 4 of them feature Selene, so she has obviously had to get stronger through the series to face new and stronger enemies. However, she's not the strongest one on the list, so let's see who we have next. I had a really hard time deciding who would be in these last 2 spots, but number 2 is Akasha, Queen of the Damned. A lot of people would agree this is one of the best on-screen renditions of a vampire, as terrifying as she was beautiful. Akasha is the strongest and oldest of vampires from the Vampire Chronicles series by Anne Rice. Her and her husband were stabbed in their bed, but as her soul left her body, the powerful spirit Amel took it, twisted it with his own, and then put it back into her body, creating the first vampire. Akasha then turned her husband, and the two proceeded to almost drink the earth dry of blood. The Queen of the Damned is over 6,000 years old. She was queen of what would become Egypt. The spirit of Amel is a powerful spirit who was once human, got captured by aliens, lived in Atlantis, and yeah, that's a story for a whole other video. Anyway, Akasha is inhabited by the essence of all vampires, Amel, a very powerful spirit. This means that if she dies, all vampires die. Her supernatural strength and speed is probably pretty similar to the other vampires on this list so far. Akasha can lift up to roughly 5 tons and can run at 60 miles per hour, which is pretty fast. Imagine someone moving across a room at 60 miles or over 100 kilometers per hour. That would be scary. Any wound she sustains will heal almost instantly, and she is invulnerable to a lot of vampire weaknesses. In the film, she can even walk in daylight, so her only weakness is being completely destroyed or completely drained of blood. Akasha has some abilities that make her stand out from the previous vampires on the list, like pyrokinesis. She is able to set humans or vampires on fire. She does have to be in the general area of the person to set them on fire. This ability is especially useful because fire is usually one of the only ways to destroy their body and truly kill a vampire. She can also fly in a similar way to classic vampires, where she basically floats. The Queen has telepathy, able to communicate with others through their mind, compulsion, able to make others do what she wants, and telekinesis, able to lift, hold, and throw objects or people. She has advanced senses like hearing, sight, and smell, and a connection to all vampires, able to know where they are and call to them. In summary, I think Akasha deserves this spot because of her lack of weaknesses and her very powerful abilities: telekinesis, setting people on fire, and flight. She is just as fast and strong as Blade, probably can't move as fast as Selene or Vlad, but her other strengths more than make up for it. The only way she was brought down was through a combination of ancient vampires, including Lestat, who had fed on Akasha, granting him some of her insane strength. So who could possibly be stronger than the Queen of the Damned? And finally, at the number 1 spot, Dracula from Van Helsing. Richard Roxburgh definitely does my favorite rendition of Dracula. I love how over the top he is. Count Vladislaus Dracula was a human man who was killed by Gabriel Van Helsing in 1462, but instead of dying, he made a deal with the devil. This deal allowed him to continue living as an undead, demonic creature, but at the cost of having to feed on the blood of the living. He was sealed away in a castle by his elder, who was ashamed to have brought such an evil being into the world. This worked until the devil gave Dracula wings that allowed him to leave the castle whenever he wanted. Dracula's full vampiric form is terrifying and extremely strong. He looks like a human bat hybrid mixed with some demon. He is much larger than a normal person, somewhere around 10 feet tall, and has massive wings, probably a 15 to 20 foot wingspan. His form is similar to the other vampire's alternate form, just turned up to 11. Instead of just 2 fangs, he has a whole mouth of razor-sharp teeth and large claws. He is very physically strong. In human form, he could stop Vulcan with just a finger, and he is presumably much stronger in his full form. Dracula can move extremely fast. He doesn't do this all the time, but there's a few instances like this one, One moment he's up on the catwalk and appears behind Gabriel almost instantly. He seemed to use his wings to do this, so maybe he can fly faster than he could run or fight. Dracula has very good senses, able to hear Van Helsing's heartbeat while he was hiding, and vampires are shown having perfect vision in the dark. He seems to have some control over the elements, able to make storms appear when he needs to conduct his experiments. The bridge also gets destroyed by lightning as Carl is trying to cross it, and the bridge doesn't have any other parts destroyed, which makes me believe this was intentional, but I'm not 100% sure on that. When Dracula gets angry, it causes the machines or whatever he's around to shoot sparks everywhere.
Science over
One of Dracula's most impressive abilities is his healing. This Dracula is invincible to physical trauma. He gets hit with a large object thrown by Frankenstein's monster, who is also extremely strong. This causes Dracula to be hit into the fireplace, catching on fire, but he walks out of the fire almost a skeleton and completely heals in a matter of seconds. So Akasha's fire ability, or another vampire's brute strength, would have zero effect on him. Dracula also has a lack of weaknesses. Dracula cannot be staked through the heart, not even with silver. Holy water has no effect, and neither does fire. Anna Valerius, played by Kate Beckinsale, says over the centuries her family has tried everything to kill Dracula and nothing has worked. They eventually discover he does have one weakness though. The bite of a werewolf will kill him, and the wounds caused by a werewolf will not heal like his other wounds. Even this one weakness is quite a long shot though, because Dracula actually uses lycans as slaves. For some reason, he has control over them, and they will obey his every command, possibly because he created them, or the devil granted him control over them. It's not exactly clear what the connection is between Dracula and werewolves. There has been many lycans over the centuries, but it took Gabriel, the left hand of God, becoming a werewolf to defeat Dracula. And even then, Carl said that Gabriel would only have until midnight before he was under Dracula's spell. So even a former archangel in werewolf form still only had a small window of opportunity. So if Dracula wasn't trying to complete his experiment, he could have just flown away, and once midnight struck, Gabriel would have been helpless as Dracula's lackey. I think Count Vladislaus Dracula is the strongest movie vampire because he only has one weakness, and even that one weakness has a bunch of hoops to jump through. Like you have to become a werewolf, have willpower strong enough to overcome the curse, and then defeat a demonic bat thing that made a deal with Satan before midnight. Gabriel was the only lycan for centuries who was able to resist Dracula. I'm not even sure if decapitation would work on this Dracula, because his healing abilities are so good. He gets slammed into the ground or into this boiling pot of God knows what, and he doesn't even have a scratch. He's also extremely fast, like I said before, has great senses, and his castle is in another dimension, so he's not easy to find either. Plus, I didn't even mention he's capable of creating thousands of vampire babies with his brides, each birthing per bride, which can apparently happen pretty often. So he could easily raise an entire army of vampires. The morphing in this movie was done pretty well for the time. The wings always turn into their long clothes, and the same with Dracula. Not like some other morphs I've seen.
Don't we make a lovely couple?
That's my video on the top 5 strongest vampires in movies. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with the order. You guys always have great points, and I would love to hear who you think is the strongest vampire and why. Maybe you'll change my mind. Also, let me know if you guys would like to see a top 5 strongest vampires of TV or maybe video games. Thanks so much for 70,000 subscribers. Sometimes it's hard to believe this many people enjoy my videos, but I can't thank you enough for what this channel has done for me. It started with me making videos about Underworld for fun because I love the movies, and here we are today. So thanks to everyone that supports my channel and watches the videos. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. It helps out a lot. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.